Item number 7, Chief Executive's Officer's Report.
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll take the report as read. I just want to thank those councillors that did come and see me prior to the meeting and clarify questions. That was a very welcome series of approaches, and hopefully you have the answers, and I'm comfortable if you want to re-ask the questions today as well too. I just wanted to highlight two issues. One on 7/2, there is a figure quoted for Waitahanui water supply of 2.125 million in terms of the subsidy. It's actually 1.942 is the subsidy, so that's an incorrect figure that was taken from a very old report. So I just wanted to correct that for you. But most importantly, I just wanted to highlight the great work that Mr. Lewis and his team have been doing in terms of working with the Regional Council on consent conditions for wastewater treatment plants. That work continues to be ongoing, and certain projects are being delayed as a result of that work, but it's proving dividends, such as the Acacia Bay wastewater treatment plant, which we've managed to significantly delay some upgrade work that was possibly being required by consent conditions, and we've been able to negotiate those consent conditions to remove upwards of millions of dollars from our predicted budgets moving forward. So I think that's a really positive news story, that the work that we're doing behind the scenes to define consent conditions appropriate for the situation that we find is actually creating savings and money that we don't have to spend in the next 5 to 10 years. So I think that's a credit to Mr. Lewis and the engineering team for that. Other than that, I'm happy to take questions on the report, and we have staff in the room to be able to answer those questions.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. Got a full detailed report there. Any questions and queries of the Chief? Councillor Krasowski?
Again, I'll just reconfirmation that on 7/2 under service delivery performances, the second paragraph where we say officers are seeking to address these issues through further work with WRC staff to ensure that consent conditions are appropriate for the circumstances. So we are not in breach of any consent conditions as we speak.
No.
Thank you.
Councillor Boddy?
Thank you, Your Worship. On 7/18, this is an issue I've raised with our Chief Executive, it states that we had 41 events till the end of February, but on 4/18 on the 2nd of February it said 165, which I think Mr. Samuel is going to explain. And then on 7/25 we deal with the gross domestic product and the gross domestic product per capita. The figures, I believe, or the explanation seems to be wrong. Once again, I'll leave it in the hands of Will to explain what that's actually saying and what it should be saying.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Bishop.
Thanks, Councillor Bolly. So through the Chair, 7/18, the 41 events last time reported this time versus the 165 last time. That's just, we had a change in staff over the time that was reported, and it's just the way it's been reported. So the number that you have now is actually the true one. So to give you an example, last time, for example, they were counting every single time there was a boot camp as an actual event, whereas how we've counted it this time is that's just a series of bookings and it counts as 1 versus 60. So that explains that one. 7/25, so this one here, so the 7/25, it's under gross domestic product. So the total nominal GDP, that's reported from Statistics New Zealand, and we're given that figure annually. And so what our economist has been doing in the past, every quarter, every 6 months, is giving an estimate of that. So if we didn't get that estimate, you would just get exactly the same figure every month. And so the problem with this one is that they did an estimate 1 month and then they didn't the next month. So that's why there's a change. So we've since spoken to our economist and suggested that we keep the nominal GDP one just as is, because that's anything else is just basically an estimate. But what we will do is try and forecast that economic growth one, because that's the one you really want to be looking at, is how's our growth and how's that compared to the rest of New Zealand. So that's the 4.1% you'll see here versus New Zealand at 3.3. Hope that answers the questions.
There was the next one was to do with the gross domestic product figures. 7/25 showed March 15, but 4/25 on the 2nd of February stated September the 15th. I'm just wondering why there was that change. Was the other question I raised with the CEO. So.
Yeah, so that was the second explanation of it. So the March 2015 number, so that's an annual number reported by Statistics New Zealand. So the reason that it would have been a September number previously is that our economist has made attempts to forecast that number.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boddy. Any other questions of the Chief Executive? Councillor Krasowski. Oh, sorry, Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, through the chair. Yes, I'm just interested in 7(3), just regarding the think tank, regarding the cost sharing arrangements, assistance after disasters. Obviously, this is in the early stages. The Crown looking at changing the ratio. Is this like, is it being brought about by Christchurch? Like, a lot of the damage is horizontal infrastructure, isn't it? Yeah, that's the driving behind that, yeah, which is good of them. Yeah.
We're certainly keeping a very strong eye on that one.
And on page 7(27), I don't know whether it's actually reference to 2013-14. Is that right, or is that the right year, or is that just with the targets of 3 events in both these areas, the last sentence?
Yeah. 14, 15, yeah. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Well done, John. Well read. Very impressive. Councillor Truman.
No, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So the 2013-2014, that's taken out of the long-term plan, and that just gives you a baseline for what it was before the long-term plan started. Just so you've got a point of reference. So I realise now, being 2016, it's kind of seems out of date, but that's the reason why it's there.
Okay.
Seemed a long time ago. Councillor Truman.
Just on 7(16), just in regards to Turangi and Mangakino, they're awaiting the validation of the UV equipment by the drinking water assessor. I just wondered if there was a time frame around that.
No, there is no time around. The drinking water assessor's got that information. We're just waiting for some response.
Okay, is there any time frame that we need to keep to? Okay, so it's out of our hands.
In terms of the overall timeframes, from our perspective, they need a year's worth of records to be able to make an assessment against, and that's why it takes a long time. It's because you have to actually provide a full year's worth of records. Yeah.
Thanks.
Councillor Bernard.
I have another questions, if I may, please. The first one relates to the View Road discharge thing. It's an ongoing issue that we're having. This weekend has been a significant weekend as regards to visitor numbers, and there's going to be a significant amount of sludge going to our tip, no doubt. Is there any end in sight as regards to the issues relating to resource consent on that particular issue? Discharge?
Reference to the biosolids.
Yeah.
Yep. We're currently working with a party looking to treat the biosolids. I'm not too sure where we're at yet. I've been away for a couple of weeks, so just prior to me going away, we had a meeting with that company looking at treating the biosolids on site, but I'm not sure how far that's progressed. I know we are working to develop a business case that will be brought before council when we've got all of the necessary information.
Because there's a significant cost involved transporting it to our tip.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My other question, if I may, is on 7(16) under highlights. I see that the complaints received should be no more than 8, but under the last 2 bullet points, we are on 21 and 19.
That's 8 per 1,000
Yeah.
connections.
So that number on drinking water pressure or flow is 21.
Yes, so that's 21 in total. So I'm not sure how many connections we've got. I think it's about 22,000.
Okay, that makes explains that. As far as smart meters are concerned, we had some issues with smart meters. Has that been resolved?
I'm not aware of any.
Not water meters.
Yeah, it's work in progress. And when we have worked out the best solution, potentially best solution, we will bring it to council for a decision.
And my last question, it might actually require you again, Dennis, is the one on 7/17, water usage. The figure that we have here indicates that average use is down. But if I were to think aloud, seeing that we have a lot of absent homeowners, does that imply that the average water used by our permanent residents is actually higher than what is indicated here?
This is the average use that includes the high population. So this last weekend, and you'll see that not only does it coincide with the summer months, but it also, with our high peak population, it covers everything. And currently it's sitting at 0.9. This is probably more reflective of the rain that we've had over this last summer than anything. If you notice, you have a look at the peak for January 15, it's up about 1.5 per hue, whereas the peak for this year was, I think February was the peak at 1.21. Sorry, January. February's one's missing from there. That was 1.06.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Thank you, Councillor Krasowski. Any questions or queries of the Chief? Councillor Williamson.
Well, through the Chair, I just want to highlight a couple of things, just acknowledge the good work the Treasury do with the financial management team are doing with the, notwithstanding the economic conditions, with the interest rates, achieving a return of over 5% in the TL investment portfolio as opposed to the general interest rate in the investment portfolio of about 3%. And also the genuine savings of about $430,000. I realise some is due to timing, but there's actual real savings of about $250,000. So I'd like to congratulate Rob and his team as well on that one.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson.
There is a couple of points, Mr. Chairman. I'm old school and I'm reluctant to accept change, and I would refer to 7/40 in regards of the coloured bar graphs and dartboards that we seem to have in front of us. One of the difficulties I have with something like this is, particularly on page 7/40 on the right-hand side, the black graph there, I can't read the writing, it's blurred. And then when you come to the bottom of that up and down story buildings, when you look at what's drawn loans, that colour doesn't show me whether, because if I work along, I could be looking at something else. It's not clear. I'd like us to go back to the good old days of the columns in black and white, which you can just tick off. It's nice to see, but I don't believe it allows us to adequately work out to exactly where we are, but that's just me.
Through the Chair, yes, I apologise for the inability for even people with glasses on like me to actually read that, and that the colour scheme will be addressed. When we did the change to the Treasury Management Policy, we discovered that there were some reporting requirements under the policy that weren't being met under the previous Treasury Management Report. Hence, we revisited what we were actually reporting to make it align with the requirements of the Treasury Management Policy. In doing so, we tried a new way of showing things, and it's not going to suit everybody, but the key thing is that it now meets the requirements as per the Treasury Management Policy for monthly reporting to Council.
So, Mr. Chairman, what else could we put in the new things in the report in a black and white form with figures?
We will take on board the feedback and we'll explore whatever changes we can make that still meets our reporting requirements, and quite happy for any councillor to email us with any thoughts as to changes that I'd like to see.
Black and white.
I thought you might like the colours.
Colourblind, you've got a problem.
Okay.
Finally, Mr. Chairman, from me anyway, 7/52, and I had a discussion with Mr. Manhattan this morning. which is the bow wave expenditure up to the 29th of February on page 752. Third figure down has 635. On the 2nd of February, when these figures were last given to us, it had 886. And at the bottom, 4326. 2nd of February, it was 4577. Now, Mr. Manhattan gave me a reason for that, but I'd like to hear it again, please.
Okay, the information given at the end of, for the February report was as at the end of December. Since then, staff have done quite a bit of work on the carried forward projects to determine whether the budgeted amount carried forward was in fact realistic in based on the increased information. And if we take, for example, the case that you mentioned, the Motuopa wastewater, I think at the end of December there was about 28,000 that had been spent with a budget of 886,000. As you can see, as at the end of February for this particular report, 328,000 had been spent, and they were in a far better position to say, okay, the total cost is now going to be 635. So what we're trying to encourage here is, just because there's a carried forward budget from a previous year does not mean to say that it's locked in based on the information. It's a bit like in the financials, we're giving you forecasts as to what we see the year-end position being versus what the plan is. What we've tried to encourage as far as the bow wave is concerned is that for it to be more realistic as to what is the carried forward or the uncompleted capital expenditure.
So then effectively, if Motorola is in the next month, there's been some expenditure, that should change accordingly.
Yeah, it's a bow wave with a bit of intelligence by the staff should become more of a forecasted capital expenditure in respect of incomplete as at the end of the previous year.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Williamson.
Through the chair, just on that page, I noticed in the unbudgeted projects there's about $30,000 not necessarily had to be spent, in other words, saved.
Yeah.
On those two projects.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think the key message is that staff have taken on board that just because something's in a budget doesn't mean to say it gets spent.
Happy with that. Very happy with that. Councillor Krasowski.
Question from me on that subject. Were staff able to ascertain whether there were any scheduled flights over the Easter weekend by Sounds Air to and from Wellington?
I got that question at lunchtime. Apparently there was on Friday and Sunday, and I've asked the CEO at the airport to get me some details as to why they didn't on Saturday, Sunday. I think it might have something to do with the Wanaka Air Show, but I'm not happy with the answers I got so far. So once we get the full response, I'll share it with the councillors.
So you said there was a flight on Sunday?
No.
Friday and Monday.
Friday and Monday.
Friday, Monday, okay. All right. Very good. Okay, thank you, Alan.
I'm happy to move.
Happy to move the suggested resolution. Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, for your ongoing, and your team for your ongoing hard work. All those in favour, it's been moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Cousins. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.